reporter at the Washington Examiner, joins us now to break it all down. So, Sarah, if you look at both Trump and DeSantis supporters, they're placing Senator Tim Scott as their second choice. So what about the senator is attracting such support?
I think a lot of voters like the way that Tim Scott can speak credibly about divisive issues that other Republican candidates sometimes struggle to speak to, like racism in the United States. For example, Tim Scott has a really compelling backstory. He speaks about the way the left, in his words, misconstrue race relations in the U.S. in a really compelling, upbeat, optimistic way that, frankly, none of the other candidates in the GOP primary can really speak to as credibly as he can. So I think that inspiring personal message is something that's resonating with voters. The concern for Tim Scott, though, is that ideologically, he doesn't really align with the types of views that Ron DeSantis and that Donald Trump have that set them apart from the rest of the field and also make them pretty popular. Like on Ukraine, for example, Tim Scott is sort of a traditionalist on Ukraine and a lot of other issues. So it's unclear if he'll really be able to break through with the Trump-DeSantis group.
But and also, if he could Senator Tim Scott garner widespread support in the primary?
I think the problem or the challenge for Tim Scott is that he's sort of sharing a traditionalist lane with too many other candidates, right? You have Nikki Haley, you have Mike Pence, you have Chris Christie, you have a bunch of other Republicans who are sort of competing for the so-called normalcy vote, the return to a pre-Trump era. And in this other lane, you have Ron DeSantis and Trump competing for the populist vote and competing on the sort of MAGA agenda that propelled Trump forward in 2016. And they really have that lane all to themselves. Nobody else besides arguably Vivek Ramaswamy is competing for those voters. So while Tim Scott may be the most capable and the most compelling of the traditionalist Republican candidates, he is still competing with more Republicans than Donald Trump is right now in that regard.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the new Fox Business poll, the Iowa poll specifically, on the most important issues to caucus goers. You've got economic issues, 41%, immigration issues, 15%, social issues, 15%, foreign policy and defense, 12%, populist issues, 9%. So does Senator Scott or any of the other GOP candidates besides Trump or DeSantis have a well-defined platform on any of these issues?
I think that Tim Scott doesn't necessarily have a well-defined economic platform, right? If you think about Tim Scott's campaign and what he really stands for and the breakthrough moments that he's had so far, you think about his performance on The View, you think about, the rapport that he had at the recent Family Leadership Summit where he appeared, you think about the few moments that he's had, none of them have really focused on a substantive policy idea, right? Ron DeSantis, for example, the types of policies he's running on. He's running on education reform, that has, at times been controversial. He's running on taking on leftist interests in corporations like Disney. Tim Scott doesn't necessarily have that well-defined policy issue. He has more of a feeling, of a vibe, for lack of a better word, that defines his campaign.
But you mentioned what DeSantis is running on right now. Again, when it comes to the economy, immigration, social issues, foreign policy, and defense, who's stronger, Trump or DeSantis?
I do think that DeSantis has a better defined platform in that regard. We've seen Ron DeSantis talk more forcefully and take actions as governor about how he would stem the immigration crisis. We know that DeSantis has better defined economic policies. He talks about them all the time. The way that he created jobs in Florida, for example, after the pandemic, the recovery in Florida was one of the best in the country. So I think that Donald Trump, obviously still the front runner, the prohibitive front runner, but he hasn't well defined a lot of the issues that Republicans voters care about and where he stands on them. Abortion is one of the most glaring absences of a policy from Donald Trump. We still don't know where he would set the line of the legal limit, whether he would leave it to the states, whether he would push for a congressional limit. Now, we know what Ron DeSantis stands on that, where Tim Scott stands on that all.
Let me hang on, Sarah, because I've got to go. But to your point, though, can Donald Trump get reelected if he doesn't have a well-defined platform and if he just continues talking about what happened, at that point it would be 4 years ago?
I think it will get harder and harder for him to maintain this lead without sort of fleshing out these general ideas. And if he starts skipping primary debates and other candidates have a better chance to define themselves to voters and Donald Trump remains sort of anonymous on these issues, I do think that Donald Trump's lead will start to fall apart once we start having these set pieces like debates and forums.
All right, Sarah Bedford, we are going to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.
And don't forget, all right.